Hey squad, welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. Today we've got another scenario that I want to discuss with you. And like last time when we did the biological attack scenario, I want you to either give me your comments down below of how you would respond to the situation, or if you have a YouTube channel and you want to do a video response to it, tag me in it and then make sure that I see it so that I can come and check out your response and leave a comment for you. So the scenario for today is actually going to be based on Sarah Adams' warning. For those of you who watch the Sean Ryan show, Sarah Adams is a regular guest on there. She is a CIA targeter a former CIA targeter who continues to have contacts within various groups, such deep cover contacts within groups such as like the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS-K. And she's been trying to get intel out there that indicates that these groups are planning an attack within the United States. So if you're looking for the source of where I'm getting the inspiration for this, check out the Sean Ryan show, look for Sarah Adams episodes, and you will check those out. And that's there's some interesting information in there that I really think that everybody in the prepping community should be paying attention to. And especially those of you who are first responders, you really need to be checking this out. Unfortunately, our government is not acknowledging this, but Sarah is saying that they have very strong information from sources within these groups, deep cover sources within these groups, that indicate there is at least 1,000 fighters that are embedded in the United States that got through the southern border during the previous administration when it was just a very loose border, and that they've snuck in some pretty significant weaponry. Okay, so the scenario that she's warning us about is that her intel is indicating that there might be an attack on one of those type of targets that does not allow people typically to have personal protection in, right? Like gun-free zones, in other words. And specifically, her intel is indicating that this may be hospitals in small to mid-tier cities, okay? And that there's even been some swatting incidents recently that they think may have been, they did a swatting incident to measure what kind of response that got. Okay, so if you don't know what a swatting incident is, it's when somebody basically, it's not funny, it's a felony and you will go to jail if you get caught. Basically, somebody calls in and says that there's a active shooter or a person that indicates self-harm at this location, and then SWAT responds. And there's been 2 medical facilities that have had this happen in the country recently, and they're thinking that maybe those were being observed by people to see what kind of a police response gets to a medical facility. All right, so your scenario that I want you to respond to is that you are hypothetically visiting a friend or a family member in a hospital, okay? The only thing that you would have on you on this scenario is your EDC. So if you normally carry your personal protection items into a situation like that, then assume that you have them. If you don't normally, then assume that you don't, okay? For those of you who work in a scenario like that, if you work in a hospital, I want you to think about this from that perspective. Not that you were a visitor, but you were actually working there. And the scenario is that a group of, we'll say, 6 to 10, you don't know the exact number, terrorists have gotten into the hospital and are doing an active shooter situation where they're basically taking out vulnerable targets. Probably people at their stations, but then people who are confined to their beds who aren't going to be able to put up a defense. And it's just basically a turkey shoot, right? Horrible situation, but this is the intel that Sarah Adams is indicating, that they think that they're planning some kind of attack like this, okay? So that's why I'm throwing out these scenarios for us, is we need to be thinking about how are we going to respond to this. Now, first responders, I've got an additional challenge for you. So Sarah Adams' intel indicates that when these attacks happen, they're going to be a double tap, right? So for those of you who don't know what a double tap is, this is when terrorists attack a target and then they wait for the first responders to respond, and then the second attack is initiated targeting the first responders, right? And that could be an IED, or it could be a sniper, it could be something like that. So if you're a first responder responding to this, I want you to tell me, if that changes anything for you. If you can speak to it, maybe you can't talk about tactics, and that's okay. So then just, if you can't, then talk about as if you were a visitor to the hospital, what would you do? And as per last time, I will give you my response too, probably about in a week. I want to give people a chance to respond to this. I want to read your comments, and I've already got in my head what I would do, but I don't want to put that out there and influence anybody else's. And I promise you that my answer is not going to be influenced by your answers, but I may pick up some ideas that might be helpful for me. I'm just going to tell you, when I give my response, I'm going to tell you what I would have said before, as if I hadn't read your responses. In fact, I'm going to record it right now as soon as I'm done with this video. All right. All right, let's get going on this, guys. We got to game these scenarios in our head. This is part of prepping as well, is being able to respond to threats such as domestic terrorism, okay? Or foreign terrorism on domestic soil. All right. Hey, keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.